Hello and welcome to an edition of Paintin' with Dod. I'm Dod Boss, and today we'll be painting Clone Commander Stone out of a 2008 voice-over helmet. Now, initially, I started painting this helmet like 2, 3, maybe even more than 4 years ago, and I kind of gave up on the project. I initially wanted to make it a Commander Ganch from the old 2008 webcomics. But just because you get behind on something and forget about it doesn't mean it's forgotten forever. So we're coming back to it now and painting today on this glorious date of April 1st. Now, today I'm using just normal apple barrel white, and I already have a primer on this that I painted over back in, I don't know, whatever year it was, but we're just giving it one last quick coat. It's not titanium white. That's too expensive for me. I found this paint on the side of the road. A lot of red paint in that too, but we'll be using that later. Now, if you're painting your own helmet, these helmets are easily found at places like thrift stores. I found this guy at a peddler's mall in Lebanon, Ohio. And if you can find them, you have to fix the visors, because little kids who wear these helmets, as opposed to me, who's a big kid, will bump into random trees, and this helmet may be cool, but it's not protective if a kid runs into a playground pole and suffers a contusion. So you have to get some type of filler. One time I used cardboard and I just sanded it down, and I forget what I did for this visor, but to get its animated accurate look, you just gotta fudge it a little. There are lots of conversion kits online that you can just tape and glue to the visor. It's funny, in the newest season of The Mandalorian, you can kind of see these helmets that the kids wear, and they have these increased vision that looks a lot more derpy, but you know, that's because they're kids. And again, they don't know where they're going. That's okay. They're just moving along like the rest of us. This is already looking good. Now, if you're painting yours, make sure you evenly distribute those paints if they clop up. Now, Commander Stone, for as cool as he is, only appeared in one episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, with Representative Binks and the famous Hondo Naka in Season 1, Gungan General. Isn't that funny? A military officer is outranked by a frog man who's a representative, like in a war setting. Makes you think, what if they just snapped one day? But luckily, Commander Stone never did that. We don't know much about Stone's story outside of the Gungan General. I like to think he was at the Battle of Courascant somehow, some way. The Courascant Guard honestly has the best color scheme, in my opinion, both in live action and animated. Now, this is a phase 1, so we'll be using maroon, which it's ironic. They're one of the few clone battalions to change their colors from one tone to another. Because obviously in the Clone Wars, early seasons, they have maroon. They have maroon as their primary color for the troopers like Commander Fox and Commander Thyre. But in the Revenge of the Sith shock troopers on Phase 2, they're a lot more cherry red versus today's spiced berry maroon, which is what we're using today. Another thing to keep in mind is if you are a die-hard completionist of trying to make this the most accurate you can, you have to fill in some of these lines on the helmet. Now, when I tried this back in all those years ago, me and a friend, we taped up and used epoxy to fill in lots of these lines that were created because this helmet came in a package like a box, and it obviously couldn't come in a fully complete box, but it nonetheless came in pieces. So if you really want it to look seamless, you'll have to use some type of epoxy. Fill in and sand in. Ironically, I dropped this helmet. I never dropped it until about 2-3 months ago, and it fell on the ground and it kind of cracked open, and you'll see on the right side that I tried to fix it and fill it in. It does not look that good from the right side, but that's okay. One of the nice things about clone trooper helmets is you can just, sum it up to battle damage. No mistakes, just battle damage. Another tip as you're using some paint is to get your paintbrush a little wet and then distribute some of that wetness throughout. And you can get the rest of that paint out of your brush. Another thing that I love about the Clone Wars specifically is how every helmet and every model in especially the early seasons had art. You could tell that there was brush strokes in general on animation models, and especially the Clone Trooper helmets. Lots of people like to make fun of the series' art style as wooden caricatures. Obi-Wan's wooden beard. People made fun of that. I remember trying to defend that in middle school, and it's always been one of my favorite parts and really set it apart from the rest. And I'm really happy that shows like The Bad Batch have been able to maintain that. So I'm just appreciating every episode and every release we get in that art style, because you never know when something can be taken away from you. So it's important to appreciate what you have, and even when it's gone doesn't mean you can't appreciate it and look back at it with fondness. Now we are nearing the end of this first coat, or really, probably this helmet's like fifth. I tried a lot back in the day with my friend. Ironically, his last name was Stone, so this helmet is somewhat an homage or dedication to you, Mr. Stone. No, not Mr. Stone from the Sonic movies. Agent Stone, although he does make a good goat's milk latte. Jim Carrey's in that movie. He's pretty good. Imagine if Jim Carrey would be in a Star Wars project now. He probably would never be because he's Jim Carrey. But I think he'd make a great Hondo Ohnaka. Or at least I'd love to see him as Hondo Ohnaka. All right. We're going to let some of that dry. We're just going to distribute the rest of this paint throughout. And again, if you're painting yours at home or you have a helmet that you'd like to paint, don't be afraid to use a big brush and leave some of those brush strokes in. Don't be too specific to make it look seamless. These helmets were meant to be worn and customized in the universe of Star Wars Clone Wars, but make it your own piece by, add in some little divots or scratches and come up with your own story, you know. The left side of this helmet has a lot of, if you can see right there, it has some of the epoxy that I tried to fix it with. Now, it looks very awkward and bad, but, you know, I can just say, oh, that's the acid rain that was seen in the season 1 episode Gungan General, that the troopers had to run inside a geyser to hide from or something like that. I forget. I should remember. Before iPad kids, they were VHS camera kids, and boy, VHS TV kids, VCRs. And I recorded lots of Star Wars: The Clone Wars on tape. And I remember I recorded the Gungan General on tape, and I watched that into the ground. It was a great episode, one of my favorites of this season. And honestly, an underrated gem, because again, you get clones, you get Jar Jar, you get Hondo Ohnaka, who's a amazing pirate man who's hopefully gonna get some more love sometime in the future. But for now, Commander Stone will get some attention here. All right, we're gonna let that dry here. This should be we're gonna do the last coat here. We're gonna get our wet brush with just a little bit of white on it, and we're gonna always wanted to do that. And we're gonna get some of this final paint on and off and just distribute the stuff. Now again, when you get your paintbrush just a little damp, that means you're going to be reactivating all the almost dried paint and giving it new life. Much like how we're giving this helmet new life. This thing has been transferred from closet to closet, from bookshelf to bookshelf, from so many places, and it's nice to finally come back and finish it. All right. Well, now we are gonna do one last dry. And it's almost time for the spiced berry. That's the name of the paint we'll be using today. It's from Apple Barrel. And as soon as I find myself, we'll get started. So here we go. Now, Commander Stone has a rather simple design. So simple, I still need to look it up online. But that's okay. Ironically enough, if you look right here, you can see a little mini Commander Stone, and he is missing his helmet. Pretty sure he was lost during a sleepover of some sort. And he has been, honestly, rather expensive on the aftermarket. So if you have an extra Commander Stone helmet for a Clone Wars, ooh, that looks good. That looks good. Now, the camera light in here is rather tough here at the end of the hall, but that's okay. We'll show you how it looks like in the end product, but right now we're just starting off at the top fin. It's always scary to start some things, especially when you're working with paint, but you have to start somewhere, so why not here? Now again, if I didn't lose my Commander Stone helmet back in, I don't know, whenever I lost it at a sleepover, I would probably be using that as a reference, and it'd be very nice because honestly, it's only 2 parts. Like, sure, you got a top part of the helmet that comes down, but you also have around the sides And we'll be working with that right now if the phone won't die. All right. Here we go, I hope. Ironically, I don't have any frontal shots of his helmet, so we'll just be going off of this. One of the favorite things I love about commanders, about shock troopers in general, is how they basically amplify a clone trooper's design, like the helmet or the armor itself, especially in Phase 2. But if you look, as we'll be moving on with this, Commander Stone's helmet has lots of curves on the side, and he also has lots of curves, or now he's not a curvy man. Actually, this figure right here is notorious for being, it's actually known as the Stone mold because it was the first figure of its kind to have limited articulation in respect for the animation accuracy of a figure. So this little guy that's sitting here is plucked right off the screen and would be used for a lot more Phase 1 troopers in the future. Look at that, it's already coming together. So the Stone mold, it only has articulation at the legs or the knees. It has a ball joint at the head, swivel at the wrists. What else? No articulation at the ankles, which I remember as a kid. I was so confused why a figure that looked like the rest of my clones had limited articulation, and I was kind of taken back by it. And I was not angry, not sad, but it was a disappointment to a degree. But now, as a slightly bigger kid, I can appreciate the measures that it took to compose and keep animation accuracy, and I like that about the figure. Now, the Stone mold, I believe, you know what? We can just look right here. This mold was molded in 2009. So not in the initial run of 2008 figures, that figures like this shock trooper helmet is. We have the other shock trooper off to the side, but I didn't want to have too many toys up here. Now that body, ooh, what some good articulation and proportions. They ran that sucker into the ground, and boy, was it a worthy mold. One of the best molds in 3 3/4 inch in my opinion. Now, we're running into a little bit of a speed bump, but that's okay. But we're just gonna have to make it work. This is where his helmet's supposed to curve, like I told you, but I might have gone a little too wide. Might have gone a little too far in a few places, but the beauty of painting is you can always paint over, and especially since we gave it a primer, a good handful of primers, we will be able to simply paint over it if we need to, but you know what? We're not going to worry about that right now. How does this go? You know what? We're going to go from the other side real quick. Look at that. Now the ugly mug is out of the shots. You can see it's coming together. And we got some more paint to put on. So let's get it going. On the left side, we'll turn it so you can see. Whoop. How is this going to go? Let's get it to work. work with me, would you? And here we go. All right. There's that. Let's get back to business. So again, Commander Stone was a member of the Courascant Guard in, I don't know, whatever year it was, the Clone Wars early on, early enough to have Phase 1 armor and to not know who Hondo Ohnaka was. Hondo Ohnaka, fun fact, is voiced by Jim Cummings, I believe, and Jim Cummings voices Winnie the Pooh in just about every modern Disney iteration of the character. He also voices Tigger and a whole lot of other characters in animation. The Clone Wars had a very strong repertoire of very talented voice work, and Jim certainly made the role special. It's so nice to see him still get work as Hondo at places like Galaxy's Edge in Disney parks. Ironically, we went to Disney parks one time, and I literally only wanted to see Hondo to a degree. And he was an animatronic, obviously, and he was out of commission or something. Maybe he was being phased out by stormtroopers. Nah, they just probably needed some WD-40. But if you go ride Smuggler's Run at Galaxy's Edge in any of the Disney parks, you can hear Hondo definitely in the cockpit. And that is the voice work of Jim Cummings. And I like to see, the long-lasting impact of characters that I grew up loving in the Clone Wars get, continued on and things like that. So it's just gives credence to all those guys and bullies back in middle school who thought Star Wars was dumb or the Clone Wars was for kids. It's nice to see that things like Jim Cummings and the work he continues to get outlived those pesky bullies and rude comments, but hey, maybe they can come around and still enjoy it or leave it alone. Who knows? Now, talking about prolific voice actors, D. Bradley Baker, oh boy. It is so daunting to take up a voice role where you literally are going to be voicing so many different characters and you have to make them seem different. I know Commander Stone probably isn't one of the most memorable characters if, in the crowds of Captain Rex, but he obviously reused Captain Rex's animation model because he's a bald boy in the Clone Wars. And I think I remember growing up when I watched the Clone Wars and all these behind-the-scenes interviews with the actors, and D. Bradley Baker associated like adjectives with clones, and especially in the new season or series of The Bad Batch, you hear him associate like a snake coil with Crosshair or smoke with Hunter. I remember he associated the word confidence with Captain Rex. And I remember when I was playing, make-believe Star Wars on the playground, I would try and voice like Captain Rex, and I would imagine being confident in that voice too. So it's nice to be confident in oneself and try out new things. All right, we're going to come down the cheek here. This is one of the tough parts. Really, I should have masking tape. But we're freehanding it, probably like how the clones freehanded painting their helmets back in the day. It's always nice to leave your mark and one of the aspects of individuality that clones got to do is to customize their armor. Now, Courascant Guard is often remarked as, well, the cops, the police, the security of the universe, but that didn't stop them from having a very cool and aesthetically pleasing decal. And, you know, for as much of a bad rap as they get, you cannot say they did not have drip. All right, we're going to keep on bringing up some reference pictures to see how it looks in the back. I believe it's going to come down all the way back here. And you know what? If I don't have a full reference of his helmet, that's okay. If I get a detail wrong, it is what it is. I'll have to go off my memory. But back to D. Bradley Baker. I don't know how he got sidetracked. He has taken a daunting role of voicing the clones, and it's crazy to see and hear how he makes different clones different. And if you listen to him in interviews, you can hear his normal voice. And one of the many wonders of voice acting is you're going to have a lot more roles than the one you signed on for if you are a season regular. And he had many, many, many additional voices that he would play throughout the series as a whole. He voiced Admiral Trench in those. Chronologically, the first episode of the Star Wars Clone Wars is Cat and Mouse, and he voices the Spider Admiral Trench, which I gotta imagine he had a role in advocating, because if you follow D. Bradley Baker on Instagram, his hobby is among like horror films and insect photography. He's actually a very good insect photographer. You should go check him out. And he voiced a spider. I wonder if the spider species is ever going to have a redeemable trait, or are they just going to go straight to war crimes? You know, why do characters in Star Wars, if they look bad, are they born bad? Or do they grow into those roles? That's one of the messages that Star Wars as a whole tries to tackle sometimes when they want to. When they want to make a character look sympathetic, they'll give him sympathetic traits, and if they want to make him look villainous, they'll give him massive mandibles like a spider. Or like in, what is it, the Savage Opress episode where that snake, oh man, I wonder what the snake's going to do to you, Savage. Is he going to show you where your brother is, or is he going to throw you down a pit? I can't say you didn't expect that. But I wonder if any of those eels, like Morley, I think was his name. Morley? Ben Diskin played him. And Ben Diskin actually fell into the category of voicing several characters in the Clone Wars. And one of them was cut in Season 7 of the Clone Wars back in 2013. He played the original mechanic in the Ahsoka Alone series. He was, they wrote out his character for the Martinez sisters. And in some regards, I'm frustrated that we couldn't hear him in real life or the show's revival. But in other ways, I think the Martinez twins have brought a little bit more to the table than just a love interest of that's his character, Ben Diskins. I forget his name. I forget the character's name. But if you look back at the unfinished animation reels, you can see there was a slightly different tone to the Ahsoka Alone sub-arc. How's this looking? Looking good. The nice thing about this helmet too is that it's rather simple in nature. It's only 2 colors. Once we peel off now also, if you are a keen eye, you'll see that there is no black on the visor. That's because I taped it up back with my friend so we could spray paint it with primer. And we will see in real time how useful that was. You know, did it actually help prevent paint from getting on the parts of the helmet that we didn't want it to get on, or is it just going to be all for nothing? It is what it is, regardless. And we got some more wetness on this brush so we can distribute some of this paint. It's turned out rather well so far. I left some of these paints spots, and I think bubbles formed, but that's okay. Oh, speaking of characters at D. Bradley Baker, Bubbles in Lilo and Stitch was not voiced by D. Bradley Baker, the big CIA operative-looking guy, but David, Lilo's sister's love interest, that is D. Bradley Baker, voicing David, the flame-twirling Hawaiian hunk. You think I'm lying? Look it up. That is so, as D. Bradley Baker in another Disney product. It also brings into question, you know, that's a Hawaiian character, right? D. Bradley Baker is not Hawaiian, nor is he New Zealand, as all the clones are. As Tamara Morrison is a New Zealand Islander. And one of the beautiful things about voice acting is if you can do the voice impression, if you can do a good voice, you do a good voice. In some aspects and some studios, they will prioritize if they want to have like an African American lead. It's kind of tough to cast a white guy. But, you know, in the larger field of directing and getting the right product, whoever is the best is the best. And to give you a little another insight, Agent Callus, Star Wars Rebels, one of my favorite characters. He is voiced by a black man named another David. It starts with an O, and he played Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma. Again, think I'm lying? Look it up. And more of the story is, if your voice fits the role, your voice fits the role. And it's, I'm really happy that he had a very chillin' voice in Rebels, and he brought a lot to the character. Because the paint is settling in. And I'm thinking I've done enough talking. I think the paintbrushes need to do some. So, what do you have to say? Mm-hmm. It's all coming together. All coming together. Now, speaking of voices, last bit, this helmet has a voice modifier. And you'll hear it later on when this paint dries, if it allows it. But it ironically has 3 different voice actors all trying to do a clone trooper. There is a sound of, or a sound clip of Tamora Morrison somewhere in there. He reads one line, D. Bradley Baker reads another, and then there's another, I think it's a cheaper actor that they hire for toys. They can't afford, the hierarchy of costs. There's Tamora Morrison, and then you can't hire Tamora Morrison for a TV show, so you hire D. Bradley Baker. And you can't hire D. Bradley Baker for the toy rights, so you hire a up-and-coming voice actor to do more interpretations. And he has a few here. I'll point them out when I can, but in the meantime, the brushes are going to keep talking. It is really coming together now, isn't it? One of the nice things about Stone's appearance is the fact that he has lots of paint on the back and not the front. So you won't be able to see it right now because obviously it's facing you guys, but we are nearing the end of this journey together. And it's looking great. We're going to just get some last consistent strokes. Again, one of my favorite parts about the Clone Wars art style is the fact that everything looks like a painting in some respects. You can see the brush strokes from the animators. You can see, imagine their touch on the character in the models and the scenes that they design. We're gonna get some more wetness on here and fill out some of these strokes. And we're going to focus lastly on this little section here of the helmet where it goes alongside the, oh no, I don't remember the password to my own phone. Oh well. Remember we said if I can't remember how the design looks, it is what it is. We're just gonna, I might have to bring in a separate brush for this last fine detailing. But we're almost there. I like to imagine the downtime of clone troopers, maybe painting their helmets or they mess up. Like, where's the art and supply store in Courascant or Camino? For as white and pristine as Camino looks, there's just a bunch of spray paint hanging around somewhere, and I don't know, Wrecker's probably there just like eating glue as a kid. That's how they found out he was a member of the Bad Batch, probably. But you gotta learn somehow, I guess. Is there a space Hobby Lobby? That'd be cool. I wonder if there's a space Aldi's. You have to put like a credit in a shopping cart and then return it back. I think that's Aldi's. I wonder if there's regionalized stores in Star Wars, like Menards here in the Midwest. What about in the Mid-Rim? What's the Montana of the galaxy? What's the Ohio of the galaxy? Questions we should know, and questions that people like Kathleen Kennedy are afraid to answer. Huh? Whatever happened to Old Jersey? It's in a galaxy far, far away and a long time ago. New Jersey is just the replacement. the entirety of Star Wars just takes place in old Jersey. We're going to swap out a brush here real quick. I'll be right back. You like your phone? You're not listening to the audio anymore.
No, baby. It's really like in my ears, and I can hear you. I can hear you out here. Do I need to listen?
No, but
it's just intense.
I thought you would like that.
No, I do, but
okay.
I have the headset on all day. It's.
Okay.
Well, technically it's only on one ear, but I do kind of flip from right to left, just to change up.
All right. Did you unlock it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Is it still recording?
Yeah.
Okay, I need this. All right. Rounding out third. We are coming home. We're just going to be applying some of this fine details of the curve. Now I just got done saying, or not really, I didn't finish my thoughts, bouncing all over the place. But there's a gray side to the helmet that has a curve on the Phase 1 helmets and Phase 2 as well, I believe. But this stripe on the side kind of mimics that stripe on the side of the helmet. The gray complements the maroon, if we'll see it here. And we're going to use one last broad stroke. Speaking of, not broad, but there was a clone trooper called Broadside in one of the first, I think it was the second episode, Shadow of Malevolence. No. I'm getting myself wrong. It was Destroy Malevolence? I don't know. The episode where the character named Matchstick. Can you guess what happens to a clone trooper called Matchstick? Comment below. That's right, he dies in a fireball on Cartoon Network at 9 p.m. The show, when it wanted to be dark, boy was it. It was rather cruel with its names. But luckily, well, I'd like to think Commander Stone was named after Cold Stone Steve Austin, somehow. And he just is a stone cold guy, having to deal with Representative Binks. One of those pirates called him, I remember the episode went, he's not a representative, he's a plague. Just calling, I wonder if there's any underlying there about politics, and calling your representative a plague. Lots of Newt Gunray? Do you mean Newt Gingrich? Haley Bertoni? That sounds like a weapon manufacturer to me. It's only a matter of time until Lockheed Martin gets a name drop in somehow, some way of some type of Clone Wars reference. George Lucas was rather on the nose with most of his. And I'm sure when he named characters like Newt Gunray, he was rather obviously commentating Newt Gingrich. So I wonder if there's going to be modern politics. I don't like that, and at least it feels too soon to start naming things after modern stuff. So we'll just keep calling our Geonosians by their phonetic name of and leave it at that. Did you just hear me speak Geonosian? I did. Did I actually just say Montana is a lie in Geonosian? I don't know. You can't tell me I didn't say otherwise. All right, we are filling this in. Fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. I just made a whoops, but that's okay. kind of painted a little too deeply upon his ridge of the helmet. And we're running out of maroon paint. And I take that as a sign to wrap things up for real this time. This time I'm really going to do it. I swear. Just you wait. Just you watch. This time I'm gonna not return my shopping cart. All right. It's all coming back. That's the theme of, or the Boomerang, Cartoon Network's sister program. It was called Boomerang because it all comes back to you, because it was all retro. I thought that's a neat thing to know, and how they named their channel Boomerang, because it all shows these retro, like Johnny Quest, the Flintstones, all these older animations. And it was a nice thing to switch from Star Wars to Clone Wars, and Adult Swim might have been just a little too adult for you. You switch on over to Boomerang and there's Tom and Jerry or something. All right. I want to say I'm done, but I'm not. So be patient with me as I try my best. Now, I'm kind of rushing this. Shouldn't be, but that's okay. Boy, this is going to be a long episode. I wonder how it's going to upload. That's okay. It is April 1st after all. Now, I rarely ever simp for celebrities in the sense of getting autographs, but I would love to one day meet D. Bradley Baker and have him sign this somewhere, somehow. I missed him. He didn't come to a convention I went to in Columbus. All the other members did. Matt Lanter, Ashley Eckstein, James Donald Taylor was great to talk to, but D was not there. He is, I guess, the fourth most requested next to those big three. And I really hope he travels to the Midwest sometime. Love to hear his Perry the Platypus in real life. Just one of the many other voices that he has brought to animation. All right. As we round this off, for real this time, looking at it from your point of view, I think that's starting to look good. We're going to use our fine brush, and we're going to add some hopeful lines of tying this thing together and try to make it look as seamless as it can. And if it doesn't, that is, say it with me now, battle damage. Acid rain on Florum. Hello, hello, and welcome to Florum. That's what Hondo said when he greeted... Who did he greet and say that with? Who did he say, hello, hello, and welcome to Florum? I think that was in Gungan General. I don't know. I do not know. Maybe was it Aura Singh? Aura Singh, or was it Count Dooku? I don't think it was Count Dooku, because he crashed. I'm getting distracted now, thinking about that. If I wouldn't be rambling on about useless and nonsense to fill your brain, I probably would have been done with this 30 minutes ago. This is hopefully not longer than 30 minutes of a video, but gosh dang it, we're going to take the time we need to. and go from there. I think if you just get some last maroon on here, it is gonna fill out just okay. It's not gonna fill out perfect, but not everything needs to be perfect, except for when it does. This isn't one of those, because I can always come back to this if I really want to. All right. We are almost, and I mean it this time, there. As opposed to the last 3 times I've said we're almost there. I really do think we are. And we're going to let it dry, because that's what we do around here. We let things sit, and when they're ready, they're ready. But this is really turning out so much better than I thought. Even if it might look like a middle school art project, it's my middle school art project, and I hope if you're doing this along with me, or you have this going on in the background, or if for some reason this voice is calming enough to just have in the background of while you're doing chores, well, I hope you're doing well too. But I really think this is the final touch. We're getting this last, I'm not going back. This is the last touch of maroon. And we're just gonna add some curvature, like the JonTron bit where he talks about flexio. It's a bowl, Phil. The curvature. No, what's it called? It's a drainer or whatever. Curvature, Phil. I'm going crazy. And you know what? I think I'm done. I think we are done. Well, welcome back after that brief technical difficulty where microphones died, I died a little bit, but that's okay because the helmet is done. It is finally complete. It has had a long journey to get to the point where it is today. Back in 2019 when the Clone Wars got revived, me and my friend Mr. Stone, we'll call him, not this Stone, but we taped up this helmet and we started this project, and it's nice to finally have it finished. But this is how it looks. It is very nice in my opinion, and I don't know if you heard, but I said that there were some voice lines, and this in itself is a voice changer. So, thank you very much for watching this painting with Dod Boss. I am excited to share any other painting videos with you all in the future, and thank you so much for watching this, and have a good one. Bye-bye now.